Hello and welcome back to the Joyful Soul Creates. Charlotte here, and today I'm taking part in the October Craft Collabs Hop, which is sponsored by A Colourful Life Designs. We have a giveaway of 10 $15 gift certificates. If you'd like to win, then you just need to listen for the secret word in my video and use it in the comments. And each of the channels has a different secret word, so make sure you stop on every video and leave your comments there. And I hope you'll enjoy all of our creations. The details for the giveaway and the link to the next stop on the hop are all in the description box below. So to start with, I'm just going to very quickly show you the stencils that I have received. I have 3 of the stencils from the new release. The first one is the big Damask Stencil. I don't actually use this one in my video today, but I will use the other 2. So the next one I'm going to show you is the big Swirl, which is kind of like peppermint swirl design. And finally I have the Snowflake Net Stencil, and that's the one that I'm most going to be featuring in this video. So those are the 3 stencils that I have received. And I'm going to be creating 2 cards, and to start I'm going to use that Snowflake Net Stencil, and I've placed it over a piece of pattern paper, so I'm going to be stenciling directly onto this pattern paper. The paper I have chosen is white with a kind of silvery design, and the design is musical notations. I'm not sure actually what music this is, but it was from a Christmas paper pad, so I'm assuming it's some kind of carol or Christmas music of some variety. And I'm using Tumbled Glass Distress Oxide to ink through the stencil and get my design all over this piece of paper. I'm actually inking the whole paper, which is 6x6, and it's the same size as the stencil. I don't need the whole piece for my card, but I'm actually going to use pieces of this stenciling for both of my cards. I'm using a regular ink blender tool for my blending. You could also use blender brushes or another kind of sponge depending on what you want. And just whilst I finish this off, I guess I will tell you my secret word, which is snowflake. So if you make sure to mention the word snowflake in the comments down below, and that will have you entered on my stop of the hop. And again, all the details for the hop and the giveaway are in the description box, along with all the links to the products I have used on both of my cards. Once I was happy with the ink blending on my pattern paper, I removed the stencil, and then I used a rectangle die to cut a piece for my first card. And I'm going to run this through my die cutting machine with the big Swirl stencil using some embossing mats. So here you can see the sandwich I put together, and this will emboss the stencil into that pattern paper and just adds a bit of texture and dimension to the design. And here you can see how that looks when it's finished. I decided to use a pale blue card base for this design, and I thought I would bring in the silveriness from the pattern paper by matting my focal panel onto some silver mirror card. This is a matte mirror card, so it's kind of shiny but not overly reflective. And I will trim that down to be just a little bit bigger than my panel. I actually could have used the next size up of rectangle die for this, but those rectangle dies that I used are new to me, and I'm so used to doing this with my paper cutter that I didn't even think of it at the time. I also gutted away the center of that silver mirror card because I like to preserve it as much as possible so that I can get the most use out of those specialty cards. So I'm going to use some Tumbled Monomolte liquid glue around the edges of my snowflake panel and adhere that to the silver mirror card, and just press that into place once I'm happy with the positioning. Before adhering this panel to my card base, I am going to add my sentiment, and for that I chose a sentiment from a Hero Arts stamp set called Polar Greetings, and it's just very simple Merry Christmas sentiment, which I silver heat embossed on a strip of vellum, and then I'm going to position that over the center of the large snowflake on my focal panel. I'll wrap the edges of the vellum around the back of the panel and just use some washi tape to adhere it into place. I just need it to hold in place for the moment. It doesn't have to be permanent. And I did also put just a few little dots of glue with a glue pen behind some of the letters so that the vellum would stick nicely flat on the front of the card as well. I then placed foam tape all over the back of my focal panel because I want it to be popped up and dimensional on my blue card base, and then carefully positioned it so it was nice and straight and centrally on that blue card base that I showed earlier. So then I just need to press it into place, and that completes the first of the 2 cards I made with these stencils. And I'm going to go for a more clean and simple design with the second card, which uses another piece of the stenciling on pattern paper that I did in the first place. I chose a darker blue card base this time and positioned my trimmed down strip of pattern paper onto the card base, and then I'm stamping a sentiment from Concord and 9th's Very Merry Sentiments, and I'm stamping it so it overlaps the strip. So the merry part is mostly on the card base, and then Christmas is on my stenciled strip. Again, I'm using silver embossing powder to heat emboss this, both on the card base and on the strip. And I do like to make sure my heat gun is nice and hot so that I can melt it as quickly as possible and minimize warping my card. I decided to adhere the strip down flat. This is because I felt that if there was dimension, it might interfere with the flow of the sentiment where it kind of overlaps that edge. So by having it flat, I could make sure I got everything lined up correctly so that the lettering is consistent. And I did use liquid glue because that gave me a little bit of wiggle time to make sure I had it lined up properly. And as a final touch, I added some Nuvo drops in the colour Silver Lining. So these are metallic crystal drops, which take 48 hours to dry, so they do take a little while to dry. But actually, because they're small drops that I added, they don't take quite as long as if you would make big drops. So that is something to bear in mind, that the smaller the drops, the quicker they should dry, although it is always a good idea to leave them as long as it says on the bottle, just to be on the safe side. And once I have all those drops in place, that completes my second card. And here you can have another look at both of the cards. Don't forget to leave a comment down below and make sure you mention my secret word, which I did mention earlier in the video. So if you missed it, you'll have to have a listen back through because I'm not going to tell you where it was. That's cheating. If you're not yet subscribed to my channel, you can subscribe by clicking the logo showing on screen now, and there are a couple of other videos of mine that you might be interested in watching. But don't forget to hop along with the rest of the videos from the hop first. You can always come back and watch more from me later. Thank you very much for watching, and I will see you again in the next video. Bye!